webinar, What's Hiding in Your Cosmetics? Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Saru Kaiser, and I'm the Program Manager here at Breast Cancer Action. Joining me on the webinar today will be Karuna Jagger, Breast Cancer Action's Executive Director, and Janet Noodleman, Director of Program and Policy at Breast Cancer Fund and Director of the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics. A few quick announcements before we get started. Breast Cancer Action doesn't take money from any corporation that profits from or contributes to the breast cancer epidemic. Our work is largely supported by individual donors. Please consider making a $25 donation today to support work like these educational webinars. Our presentation of what's hiding in your cosmetics will last about 45 minutes. If at any time during the webinar you'd like to ask a question, you can type it in the question bar, and we'll save time at the end to answer as many questions as we can. We want you to get involved with Breast Cancer Action, and this webinar is a great way to do that. Stay tuned for other ways we'll mention later on in the webinar. So before we begin, I'm just going to take a moment to walk through our agenda for today. So we'll start with Karuna talking about the history of Breast Cancer Action's Think Before You Pink campaign, and also walk through our current October campaign, Poison Isn't Pretty. And then Janet will take some time to discuss the problems with the cosmetic industry and the pros and cons of some current federal legislation to reform the regulation around personal care products. And last, both presenters will talk about how you can get involved to help make change happen on this issue. So Breast Cancer Action was founded in 1990 by a group of women living with breast cancer who realized the power of community. They founded Breast Cancer Action because they saw a need for a grassroots organization with a unique understanding of the political, economic, and social context of breast cancer. Our founders, only one of whom is still alive today, knew that their private medical crises were part of a larger public health emergency, and that the experiences of those dealing with breast cancer needed to be heard to address the crises. We are the only organization that addresses the breast cancer epidemic at the intersection of breast cancer, the environment, social justice, and feminism. And our mission is to achieve health justice for all women at risk of and living with breast cancer. I'm going to take a moment just to talk through very quickly our core values, and this is what guides and is a foundation for all of our work. We believe in health justice as a human right, in honesty, fearlessness, and truth-telling about the breast cancer epidemic, about honoring women's diverse voices and lived experiences, and that people's health comes over the well-being of corporate profit. We believe in transparency and accountability for ourselves and others, and that it really takes collective action to change the world for the better. And last, that integrity and we believe in integrity and freedom from conflict of interest. We also recognize how issues in social justice are really intertwined through the work that we do and form a foundation both for the core values I just spoke about and for ending the breast cancer epidemic. That's why we've made a clear commitment to social justice as a foundation of all of our work, and I'm going to talk you through a few pieces of what that means. So we know that the breast cancer epidemic impacts communities unequally and leads to unacceptable differences in who develops breast cancer, when it develops, who gets high quality and timely treatment, and who dies from breast cancer. The second is that in order to address and end the breast cancer epidemic, we really must tackle the root causes of health inequities, which are often the result of a complex interplay of culture, power, economics, racism, and sexism. We also believe that there's really no single injustice that can be effectively addressed in isolation, and we recognize that the injustices in our society really reinforce each other in many ways and at many different levels. And last but not least, in our work for health justice, we strive to be an ally by using the power and privilege we hold as an organization to build solidarity with communities who currently and or traditionally have had less access to power, information, and resources. And last, I'm quickly going to talk about the work that Breast Cancer Action does. We consider ourselves a watchdog for the breast cancer movement, and we educate, organize, and take action for systemic change in 3 very specific areas. Our work on diagnosis and treatment examines the data from a patient perspective and includes issues like breast cancer screening, healthcare access, drug and device approval, and we demand more effective, less costly, and less toxic treatments. Our work to address the root causes of the breast cancer epidemic focus on eliminating the involuntary exposures to hazardous and toxic chemicals present in all of our daily lives that put people at increased risk of breast cancer. And the last is around pink ribbon marketing and culture. And our work in this area is really about cutting through the pink noise to tell the hard truths about this disease and challenge pink-washing hypocrisy and the pink ribbon culture that have become the status quo in the breast cancer industry. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. So I want to introduce our first presenter, Karuna Jagger. Since early 2011, Karuna has been the Executive Director of Breast Cancer Action, whose mission, as I mentioned before, is to achieve health justice for all women at risk of and living with breast cancer. Karuna is a lifelong feminist, activist, and social justice advocate, and is honored to lead an organization that unapologetically puts women's health before corporate profits. Karuna's vision helped guide Breast Cancer Action's adoption of a bold new strategic plan in 2014 that had made health justice central to the organization's mission, of which I told you about in a few slides ago. Before joining Breast Cancer Action, Karuna worked with women's micro-enterprises internationally and in the U.S., providing self-employment and business training, funding, and support for low-income women. Welcome, Karuna. Thank you. Our other presenter today is Janet Noodleman. She's the Director of Program and Policy at the Breast Cancer Fund, where she oversees the organization's cutting-edge work and directs the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics, a project of the Breast Cancer Fund that works to eliminate dangerous chemicals from personal care products. She has led initiatives that promote breast cancer prevention in state houses across the country and in the halls of Congress, and has helped secure passage of some of the nation's most important environmental health legislation. Janet draws on nearly 30 years of experience in the social change and women's health arenas as a political organizer and lobbyist, and she uses her astute political expertise to spearhead campaigns that result in significant policy and market-based change. Janet received a BA from Evergreen State College and an MA in Public Policy and Women's Studies from George Washington University. Welcome, Janet. I'm now going to turn it over to Karuna Jagger.
Well, great. Well, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm going to kick it off talking about the ways in which the cosmetic industry has been a leader in pinkwashing since they put those very first pink ribbons on their toxic products. And I'm going to begin by telling the story of the pink ribbon. In early 1990, the creator of the pink ribbon, it was about 1992, in fact, the early 90s, when the creator of the pink ribbon named Charlotte Haley turned down a partnership proposed by Self Magazine and Estee Lauder. They had reached out to her because her peach-colored ribbon was gaining national attention. She declined the partnership, saying they were too corporate for her, and this cosmetics company and women's magazine did what any good corporation does. When someone says no, they went ahead and did what they wanted anyway. Their lawyers told them that all they needed to do was simply change the color of the ribbon. And their focus groups told them that pink was soothing and feminine, cheerful, as many have said, everything that breast cancer is not. And when these companies turned the peach ribbon pink, they shifted the focus on prevention, which had been Charlotte Haley's focus in calling for more funding into the root causes of the disease. They shifted that focus on prevention to empty awareness. And I think that understanding the there we go, sorry, I might have gone too fast. There we go. Understanding the history of the pink ribbon helps explain where we are today and the limits of pink ribbon culture and marketing to solve the breast cancer epidemic. We all know that companies spanning many industries, not only cosmetics, have engaged in cause marketing. And cause marketing is a marketing strategy that links for-profit businesses with nonprofit organizations. Cause marketing differs from corporate giving in that philanthropic giving involves a specific donation that's tax deductible, whereas cause marketing is a marketing relationship that's not necessarily based on a donation at all. And Some companies exploit public goodwill by not donating any money to a breast cancer organization, or perhaps a minimal donation that is going to nothing more than awareness. Breast Cancer Action offers critical questions for consumers who have questions about where money for pink ribbon products is going, and what do we have to show for the billions spent on pink ribbon products. So I encourage you to go to the Think Before You Pink website to review those critical questions for conscious consumers. But I want to be clear that not all cause marketing is necessarily pink washing. Breast Cancer Action coined the phrase pink washing more than a dozen years ago to refer to those most hypocritical companies which claim to care about breast cancer while their own products or services are linked to increased risk of the disease. And as I open by saying, I am struggling with the click-through. Thank you. No industry has aligned itself more closely with the breast cancer movement than the cosmetics industry. It has long flooded the market with pink ribbon products, pink ribbon lipstick, pink ribbon nail polish, pink ribbon perfume, you name it. And as Janet will explain in more detail in her section, personal care products and cosmetics are some of the least regulated products on the market. They can contain a number of harmful chemicals with links to breast cancer as well as other health harms. These chemicals include multiple kinds of hormone disruptors and carcinogens. So in response to about 10 years after those first pink ribbon products began flooding the market, Breast Cancer Action launched our Think Before You Pink program in 2002. And over the years, we have targeted and pushed back on cosmetic companies putting pink ribbon products in a number of ways. So in 2003, when we coined the term pink washer, we took out an ad in the New York Times targeting cosmetic companies that raise money in the name of breast cancer, but manufacture body care products with known carcinogens and other reproductive toxins. In 2011, some of you might remember, we targeted Susan G. Komen, that's the country's largest breast cancer organization, for commissioning a perfume which independent lab testing showed contained a number of chemicals of concern with links to breast cancer. And this year, we are taking it to the next level by targeting, I'm trying, Saru. Next, thank you. By targeting the country's largest cancer charity. We're putting breast cancer patients front and center of this year's Think Before You Pink campaign. So let me give you a little history of the Look Good, Feel Better program. Any of you who have been through a breast cancer diagnosis or supported a loved one through a breast cancer diagnosis is likely to know about the Look Good, Feel Better program. It's a partnership between the largest trade association for the $70 billion cosmetics and personal care products industry and the country's largest cancer charity. And the American Cancer Society itself comes in at nearly $1 billion in annual revenue. These giants are working together to give cosmetics to cancer patients. Now, Look Good, Feel Better is a psychosocial support program. It's run by the Personal Care Products Council and administered by the American Cancer Society. They do hold free workshops giving beauty tips to cancer patients in active treatment to combat what they call the appearance-related side effects of treatment. They also, in addition to these tips, give complimentary makeup kits to women in cancer treatment. Member companies of the Personal Care Products Council, companies like Avon and Estee Lauder, donate cosmetic products for these kits. Cosmetologists donate their time to run the workshops. And it all sounds like selfless altruism until you look a little bit closer. I do want to be very clear that we are not telling women that they shouldn't wear makeup. There is no one right way to go through breast cancer. Whether we decide to go through treatment with or without a wig, with or without makeup, with or without a prosthetic, it's every woman's individual choice. And as an activist organization, we are here to take action when we see a trusted nonprofit giving chemical-laden cosmetics and personal care products to cancer patients. What happened? When our members started sending in their Look Good, Feel Better kits, we took a look at what was inside. I should say that every kit is different. They're not standardized, so you really can't find anything in there. In every kit that we looked at, more than half the products contained a number of chemicals of concern. For example, fragrance. It sounds innocuous enough, but the term fragrance can conceal harmful chemicals which protect trade secrets behind this general term fragrance. We found formaldehyde releasers, which are used to preserve personal care products and can be absorbed through the skin. These chemicals slowly and continuously release small amounts of formaldehyde, which is a known human carcinogen. Polytetrafluoroethylene, that's PTFE for short, it's what most of us know as Teflon. Yes, Teflon is in some of the products that our members sent us because Teflon is considered by the personal care products industry to be a skin conditioner. It's used to smooth fine lines and wrinkles and ensure a smooth application of the product. But our skin is our largest organ, and we don't want Teflon soaking in through our skin. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, not too long after we launched this campaign, the Breast Cancer Fund came out with a new report detailing many of the issues with PTFE. I encourage you to take a look at that. Last but not least, hormone disruptors. We know that breast cancer is a hormone-driven disease. We know that the most common breast cancer treatments target the hormone system. Many scientists are concerned about the ways in which hormone-disrupting chemicals in our daily lives can increase the risk of breast cancer. And it also turns out that some hormone disruptors, including methylparaben, which is in some of the products that the American Cancer Society is giving to cancer patients in these kits, methylparaben has been shown in a lab to interfere with tamoxifen, one of the most common breast cancer treatments. The chemicals in cosmetics are bad enough, and they're particularly problematic for vulnerable communities. We know that chemical sensitivity is an all too common side effect of treatment, and it should go without saying that cancer patients are not immune from second cancers. I haven't talked about the fact that a new report from the Breast Cancer Fund about occupational exposures finds that cosmetologists are at 5 times greater risk of cancer than other women. These cosmetologists are working as volunteers in the Look Good, Feel Better program. And many cosmetics and personal care products targeted to women of color are particularly toxic. For example, a hair straightening product that's been in the news that many of our partners have been working on, Brazilian Blowout, has higher levels of formaldehyde than embalmers use on dead bodies. In fact, a new report released today on parabens in human cord blood finds that pregnant women of Caribbean and African American descent in Brooklyn had the highest levels worldwide of methylparaben and polypropylparaben. And remember, those cells that were exposed to methylparaben were less responsive to the breast cancer treatment tamoxifen. So these exposures are a concern both when it comes to preventing cancer and also to protecting patients. African American women are 40% more likely to die of their breast cancer than their white counterparts, and this is an urgent health justice issue. But it doesn't need to be this way. The American Cancer Society says they are committed to providing the valuable service of Look Good, Feel Better for women who are looking for this type of program. And they can do that without shilling for the cosmetics industry. They can provide the program's benefit without the toxic harms. The American Cancer Society and Personal Care Products Council could take a stand to protect patients and prevent cancer. They could simply say that any company that wants to be part of the program cannot use harmful chemicals that increase the risk of breast cancer or interact with treatment. Breast cancer is not pretty, no matter how many pink ribbons get attached and no matter how many free cosmetics are given to cancer patients. Too many industries and corporations exploit our concern about breast cancer for their profit with promotions that ultimately benefit corporations far more than they help women living with and at risk of breast cancer. And this matters because despite the billions of dollars spent on pink ribbon products, 40,000 women still die of breast cancer each and every year. And I want to tell you a little bit about Doris Ann on the slide here. She was first diagnosed with stage 2 primary breast cancer in 1993. Her cancer returned in 2006 as stage 4 metastatic. From the very beginning, when she was first told about and encouraged to participate in the Look Good, Feel Better program, Dorothea says, "I refused to participate when I immediately recognized there was a serious disconnect in the program's approach. Why would I want to put toxic cocktails of cancer-causing chemicals on my skin and hence subject my immune-compromised body to them?" She goes on to say, when talking about her own growing awareness of toxic exposures through everything from personal care products to food and other pathways of exposure, she goes on to say, quote, "It made me sad and angry to realize that it's necessary for you and me to carefully screen products that the FDA approves as safe. I realized then that safety and healthfulness have little if nothing to do with product approval or availability. It's all about marketability." And I'm here to say that through our Think Before You Pink program, we are making sure that pinkwashing is not good PR for companies. We are holding them accountable, and we have seen the results over the years of running the program and forcing companies to change. Within days of launching this campaign, Poison Isn't Pretty, I heard from the heads of both organizations wanting to defend their program. Both organizations insisted that cosmetics follow all current regulations, but we know that the regulations are weak, and as Janet will discuss in more detail, the industry is essentially regulating itself. The American Cancer Society has said that they believe, quote, "the benefit outweighs the risks," end quote. Benefit to whom? The cosmetics industry. And after defending the program to me, both organizations have issued public statements. The Personal Care Products Council has followed up with a press release about our campaign. And since they can't show that their products are safe, they're basically slinging mud at us. It's really an act of desperation. There have been blocking members from posting on social media. The industry is feeling pressure all the way in Europe, and the European equivalent of the Personal Care Products Council is called the Cosmetic, Toiletry, and Perfumery Association. They have also issued a statement over there on the other side of the ocean. It has struck a nerve, and they are back against the ropes. We have had enormous response to this campaign from both the public and the media. And this is how we create change, by raising our voices together, by standing together to push back on corporate power, because no matter how much mud or dirty corporate money they are willing to throw around, we are stronger because we are right. So I ask you to join us in taking action now. Take action, go to our webpage, send your letter directly to the heads of the American Cancer Society and Personal Care Products Council. Spread the word, help us build a movement, and help work for systemic change. We're going to turn the webinar now to future legislation, because companies shouldn't be able to pinkwash in the first place. We should be protected by our regulatory agencies. And it is a real pleasure to turn it over now to Janet to talk in more detail about the need for stronger laws for cosmetic and personal care products here in the U.S.
Corinna, thank you so much, and thank you for that wonderful presentation. I learned a lot. So tragically, however, this is probably an inelegant segue, but tragically the problem isn't limited to the Look Good, Feel Better program that Corinna mentioned. In fact, Americans use an astonishing array of cosmetics and personal care products every day, from eyeliner to shampoo, perfume to body lotion, baby powder to aftershave, hundreds of which contain chemicals linked to cancer, birth defects, endocrine disruption, learning disabilities, and reproductive harm. Taken alone, chemicals in any one consumer product may not cause harm. Unfortunately, people are repeatedly exposed to industrial chemicals from many different sources, including cosmetics, on a daily basis. Next, Saru. The average American uses 12 personal care products a day, resulting in exposure to 126 unique chemicals from personal care products alone. Next, please. So why is this a problem? Because there are over 10,000 chemicals used to manufacture cosmetics, and only about 20% have ever been assessed for their impact on human health. Next. Cosmetics sold in the U.S. contain ingredients, contaminants, and impurities with known health hazards, including lead, phthalates, hydroquinone, coal tar, formaldehyde, 1,4-dioxane, acrylamide, and even, as Karuna mentioned, PTFE, the same chemical used to create the nonstick surface in some pots and pans, and a problem because it can also be contaminated with PFOA, which is linked to breast cancer. Next. Shocking but true. Some of the same chemicals found in personal care products are used to grease gears, stabilize pesticides, soften plastics, and, as Karuna mentioned, even embalm dead people. Next. The mainstream cosmetics industry and their trade association, the Personal Care Products Council, argues that there is nothing to worry about because personal care products contain just small amounts of toxic chemicals. Scientific research, however, shows that even tiny doses of chemicals can disrupt hormones, interfere with development, and cause disease, especially when exposures occur during critical times of growth, such as infancy and puberty. Chemicals linked to cancer have no place in anyone's beauty routine. Even low levels of cancer chemicals can add up to real harm and contribute to a woman's breast cancer risk, especially when they are found in multiple products she uses every day, such as shampoos, other hair products, creams, eyeshadows, blushes, and nail polish. American girls as young as 7 use makeup, and 90% of girls 14 and older use it on a regular basis. Recent research also shows that American girls are entering puberty earlier, and hormone-disrupting products may be a factor. Next, please. Some cosmetics and personal care products contain chemicals linked to breast cancer, but not all toxic chemicals linked to the disease act the same. Some chemicals are carcinogens that damage breast cell DNA or change the cell's ability to respond to internal or external challenges. Examples include 1,4-dioxane found in shampoo and body washes, and ethylene oxide, a penetration-enhancing chemical, which you won't find on an ingredient label because it's a byproduct of manufacturing. Other chemicals disrupt the hormones in our bodies. These chemicals, called endocrine disruptors, disturb or mimic normal biological processes. Chemicals that mimic estrogen are of particular concern because exposure over time to naturally occurring estrogen or synthetic chemicals that act like estrogen increase our breast cancer risk. Examples include parabens, phthalates, musks, and triclosan. Next, please. We think you shouldn't have to be a toxicologist to find safe products when shopping for shampoo, makeup, or other personal care products, which is why we're advocating for giving the FDA the statutory authority that they need and the resources that they need to more strictly regulate the $71 billion cosmetics industry to ensure that everyone has access to safer cosmetics and personal care products. Most people assume the government, in this case the FDA, regulates cosmetics the same way that it does food and drugs to ensure that they're safe. In reality, cosmetics are one of the least regulated consumer products on the market today. Next, please. The $71 billion cosmetics industry is regulated by approximately 2 pages of federal law. The FDA does not have the same authority to regulate cosmetics as they do drugs. Companies can use virtually any raw material without FDA pre-market safety testing or review. The FDA does not have the authority to recall dangerous products off of the shelves, like Brazilian blowout. Plus, there are labeling loopholes in the law that exempt the ingredients in professional salon products and that don't require internet sales of cosmetic products to list product ingredients either. Next. To make matters worse, the FDA takes its cues from an industry-funded safety panel, the Cosmetic Ingredient Review, which is housed in the same office building as the PCPC and funded by the world's biggest cosmetics companies, a classic example of the fox guarding the hen house. Next. Fortunately, for the first time in 77 years, Congress could close the gaping holes in our outdated federal law with the Personal Care Product Safety Act of 2015, introduced in the U.S. Senate by Senators Dianne Feinstein from California and Susan Collins, a Republican from Maine. This bill has the potential to give the cosmetics industry a desperately needed makeover. The Campaign for Safe Cosmetics has taken a support if amended position regarding this bill, applauding the work of Senators Feinstein and Collins for bringing this important issue to the forefront, while urging the Senate Health Committee, the committee with jurisdiction over this issue, to incorporate key strengthening amendments to make the bill a truly robust reform of a law that desperately needs to be updated for the 21st century. Next slide. There are many strong provisions in the bill that would advance the FDA's ability to protect the public health and consumers from unsafe chemicals in cosmetics and personal care products, specifically by requiring companies to register their facilities, products, and ingredients with the FDA, closing labeling loopholes by requiring full ingredient disclosure for professional salon products and web-based sales of consumer products, and directing the FDA to assess the safety of a minimum of 5 cosmetic chemicals a year. Next slide. However, as the bill moves forward in the legislative process, we think the following common sense amendments are also needed. The breadth and the depth of the bill safety standard used by the FDA to assess the safety of cosmetic chemicals needs to be stronger. Industry self-certification of cosmetic safety needs to be more robust. Fragrance, flavoring, and other ingredients should be fully disclosed to the FDA, manufacturers, and consumers. Data sharing of safety studies should be required to assist small businesses and decrease animal testing. Consumers should have the right to know about cosmetic products that are causing hair loss, burns, disfigurement, hospitalization, or other adverse reactions. And the ability of the states to legislate on cosmetic safety must be protected against federal preemption. Next slide. We need safer products and stronger laws. Next slide. So what can you do politically? First of all, we'd love if you would join our efforts to pass smarter laws at the state and the federal level that protect consumers from toxic ingredients in cosmetics and personal care products. Ask your U.S. Senator to urge the members of the Senate Health Committee to make cosmetic safety a top committee priority. Next slide. So that is the end of my presentation. I've listed some additional resources here if folks want to get in touch with me personally. My email address as well as our Twitter address, and we'd love for you to become a fan of Facebook. And I'm really excited to hear what questions you might have about both my presentation as well. I'm sure Karuna's interested.
Great. Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Karuna. And we're going to be opening it up to your questions in just a minute. Before we do, I want to take a minute to talk a little bit more about how you can get involved with Breast Cancer Action. You can sign up to become a member and get our news and action e-alerts to keep up to date on the many issues we work on, including Think Before You Pink and environmental regulation. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter to connect with others and help change the conversation about the breast cancer epidemic. You can also help others get involved. You can tell your friends, your coworkers, family members about this webinar. And last, you can donate to support our educational and advocacy work. And again, I wanted to remind you that Breast Cancer Action really relies on your support to make these webinars possible. Your individual support of our work is so very crucial, and if you've been inspired today, you can make a donation of $25 or more so we can continue these webinars. And you can go to the link on the screen, www.bcaction.org/donate. Again, really big thank you to Janet and Karuna for their wonderful presentations. And now I want to take the rest of our time to answer any questions you might have. People have been typing in their questions during the webinar, and we will start with those. Please feel free to continue to type your questions into the question panel on your control panel over to the right of your screen. So the first question is to you, Karuna, and someone asked if you could just talk a little bit more about what someone can do to take action around the Poison Isn't Pretty campaign.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking action. Again, as a grassroots organization, our members are our power, and it's standing together and raising our voices so we can really push these multi-million and multi-billion-dollar industries to change. So the first thing is to go to our website and click on the Take Action to send your letter directly to the heads of the American Cancer Society and Personal Care Products Council. You can customize that letter. I also, do encourage you to reach out to them on other means. So you can write your own tweet or retweet our tweets. You can tag them on Facebook posts until you get blocked. You can make sure that they hear from you in multiple ways. You can always pick up the phone and tell them why this matters to you. I also would love for you to spread the word, help bring more people to this campaign and to this issue. We've seen tremendous reach. We've gotten great media coverage. And a lot of folks are outraged, and it's trying to help people convert that outrage to action so that the American Cancer Society and Personal Care Products Council actually hears from you. We have a Tell Your Story option on our website, so after you take action, there is a place for you to tell your own story about why this issue matters to you. And on our blog, as well as some other places we've been able, social media, we've been able to share folks' stories. So in all of these ways, I think you can really help us keep the issue front and center of the AACS and Personal Care Products Council. And we will be, again, working to keep you informed on what you can do on the legislative front.
Great, thank you. There's a couple of questions that people are asking that they would love to sort of get involved with the political pressure to reform the federal legislation around personal care products, but it's a long process, and in the meantime, sort of what can they do now to find sort of safe cosmetics for themselves and their families?
So I'm gonna answer that question in two ways. The first is what people can do personally, and that is, if you're looking for safe products, there are a few resources I would point you to. One, on the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics website, it's safecosmetics.org. You'll find a whole list of chemicals of concern. We call them our red lists, and we've developed red lists for about a dozen different product categories: hair products, nail products, kids products, etc. And so these are lists of chemicals to stay away from. So the first thing we always say is just become a smarter shopper and self-educate yourself. The other thing you can do is, if you have a smartphone, is take advantage of the Think Dirty app, which is a really great tool to have with you when you go shopping. So you can actually look for, there's tons and tons, thousands and thousands of mainstream products on the app, and you can get a score, safety score, regarding the product by using that app. The second part of what I want to say, and I've had $1 for every time I said this, I would probably have $100, but we really can't shop our way out of the problem, and I'm really happy to hear that people are interested in getting involved politically. I would again direct you to our website, safecosmetics.org, and we have an action alert up targeting the U.S. Senate, asking them to support strengthening the Feinstein bill and making it a top Help Committee priority. And so that's an easy thing you can do. That would take 5 minutes to send out that email letter. But if you want to get more involved, I encourage you to contact me and become a part of our lobbying corps. We're sending out businesses and individuals in teams to senators all across the country, and we're doing that in order to, again, just increase their public appreciation for their problem and their willingness to do something about it.
Great, thank you, Janet. There's a question to both presenters asking about, it seems from the presentation that the regulation sort of on the books is from 1938, and a sort of two-part question. Why has nothing been done to reform this industry since then? And what has there been work to reform the industry since 1938?
So that is, Luna, do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, the why is always, yes, please, go ahead. The why is always the big money question.
Yeah, so that is such an awesome question. Thank you, whoever asked it. So the bill, the law, the 1938 law has been amended once since 1938, and it was amended to require the labeling of the ingredients in cosmetic products except for fragrance, as Karuna mentioned, flavoring and colorants. So all of the rest of the chemicals do have to be labeled in products. The law was attempted to be amended a number of different times. There's a whole really interesting historical overview. What happened is every time a member of Congress got ready to introduce a bill to amend the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Safety Act, the Personal Care Products Council, the trade association, would say, no, you know what, we are going to do a better job of self-regulating ourselves. Like, please do not go to the trouble of legislating. And then they would kind of tweak their internal programs and policies, you know, to make it seem that they were addressing the problems that were being raised, when in reality, you know, the self-regulation was just rubber stamping their business as usual approach to regulating the safety of cosmetics. And they've done a very bad job of it, you know, given, as Karuna and I both mentioned, all of the toxic chemicals that are legally allowed to be used to make the products themselves. So, you know, that has been the status quo. The industry is very, very good at lobbying. They pay a lot of money to different lobbying entities to block and obstruct additional regulation. And now, you know, what they're doing is they're coming to the table finally because there's a crisis in confidence in the safety of their products, and they're saying, we support federal legislation, but what we want to make sure is that they're not just rubber stamping the existing, again, status quo, but instead supporting meaningful health protective reform.
And I think kind of pulling this back to the cancer industry, you know, I think that one of the things that we see over and over again is that when industries make significant donations to charitable causes, so in this case, you know, you've got many individual cosmetic companies and the trade association for the personal care products and cosmetics industry, making heavy investments into breast cancer organizations. And what you can see is that those industries that are increasing our risk of breast cancer are influencing the agenda of many breast cancer organizations who are failing to call out the environmental exposures and failing to take action in a meaningful way to really prevent cancer and protect patients. So I feel like I want to pull it back to that beginning part of the presentation on the pink ribbon, on cause marketing, and on the cancer industry and the circularness of the way that money carries influence within the breast cancer movement itself.
Great, thank you both. There is a question sort of around targeting sort of companies and corporations or trade associations in this case, and how effective is this sort of this type of activity? How effective is it, and has Breast Cancer Action had success in the past in these types of campaigns?
Yeah, it's a great question, and yes, we have. And I think back to an earlier campaign called Milking Cancer, in which we were asking Yoplait, which was selling pink-lidded yogurt, but the yogurt itself was produced with the synthetic growth hormone RBGH, and RBGH has links to increased risk of breast cancer. And so again, we were calling out the pinkwashing and saying if they really care about breast cancer, in fact, they'll make sure that the product is safe. And after we ran Put a Lid on It, which was the name of our campaign, targeting those pink-lidded yogurts, both Yoplait and Dannon committed to not using dairy produced with that synthetic growth hormone, RBGH. So that affected about 3/4 of the yogurt industry, kind of yogurt produced here in the U.S., sold in the U.S. So that was a tremendous win. Going back to cosmetics, our campaign Raise a Stink, which targeted Komen's perfume Promise Me. That was the perfume that contained galaxolide and other chemicals of concern. In response to that campaign, Komen did stop that partnership. So we have seen companies and nonprofits respond to the campaign. What the Cluck was a partnership that Komen ran with Kentucky Fried Chicken. They ended that partnership halfway through the promotion. So over and over again, we see that when we, the public, make sure that companies cannot get away with pinkwashing, when we refuse to let them have that positive PR for their hypocritical pinkwashing, there's no longer an incentive for them to do those promotions, and they stop them. So I do feel like it's very clear that the American Cancer Society and Personal Care Products Council are feeling the pressure. I think it's really interesting that the European equivalent to the Personal Care Products Council put out a statement at the end of last week showing that they're also feeling the pressure. This campaign is resonating with the public and with the media, and I think that together we do have an opportunity here to really push for some change.
Great, thank you. Janet, a question to you. Someone was interested in if you could talk more about, Karuna mentioned Breast Cancer Fund's study. They weren't quite sure, but I know Karuna mentioned 2 studies, one having to do with occupational exposures, and the other, a more recent one that came out a few weeks ago that had to do with PTFE. I was wondering if you could talk more about both of those studies.
Sure. So the Teflon report that we did, and it just came out actually just a couple of weeks ago, looked for the presence of PFOA, which is a perfluorinated compound in cosmetic products, in skincare products. And we found PFOA in 6 of the 17 products that we tested, so over 1/3 of the products that we tested. And PFOA is linked to increased risk of breast cancer, and it's an endocrine disruptor. It's a reproductive carcinogen. It actually never biodegrades in the environment. It is literally like sticks around forever. And shockingly, it is the same chemical that's used. It's trademarked by the name of PTFE. The chemical that actually is contaminated with PFOA is trademarked by the name of Teflon. So it's used to create the nonstick surface in some pots and pans. So it's pretty creepy that companies like L'Oreal, who we ended up targeting because of their use of PFOA, are using this same chemical used in nonstick pans in their anti-aging products. That was a report that just came out a couple of weeks ago, and then just let's see, on Labor Day, we released a report looking at occupation in breast cancer, and the report looked at about a dozen different occupations that are linked to increased risk of breast cancer, and provided some statistics on what the increased risk was. Shockingly, there are professions like librarians, flight attendants, lawyers. Not surprisingly, it also includes custodians and other janitorial workers. Let's see, salon workers. So it's a fascinating report, and both can be found on our website, breastcancerfund.org.
Great, thank you. There's a question to you, Karuna, and talking about how the Doris's story was really powerful, and wondering if Breast Cancer Action has heard other stories from women about this campaign and about the Look Good, Feel Better program.
Yes, it's a great question. And this campaign, like many of our campaigns, emerged from our members. You know, our members are themselves the target of Look Good, they're the target audience for Look Good, Feel Better. And people have had mixed response over the years. You know, there's no question that there are some in our network who have really felt that the program provided some useful tips to them at an important time when they just, you know, it's hard to go through the world with no eyebrows, and they just wanted to be able, they were working through treatment, they wanted to be able to go to work without, you know, what they called the distraction of the physical, you know, effects of treatment. And so a number of people have said they did find the tips themselves valuable. Other people really resent being told they should look good, and they ask, you know, you want me to look good so that you can feel better? And I want to say here that there's no one, you know, right answer to that. You know, we can have these different experiences, but many people who went through the program reached out to say they were appalled by the products they were given. They were appalled that these were products that, you know, either they recognized some harmful chemicals themselves, they recognized brands that have been in the been in the news and been the target of other campaigns because of the ingredients. You know, some people reached out to say that their products were expired, but whether they had that information before or after the campaign, everyone who has, you know, had the opportunity to understand what is in these products is really outraged that this trusted charity is giving products with these chemicals to cancer patients. So this absolutely emerged from our members and has just had overwhelming support with many people telling their stories. And, you know, again, I would encourage you that if you have your own story to share that.
Great, thank you, Karuna. There's a question about what you would look for on a label if a product contains PTFE or PFOA. Would it say Teflon on the ingredient list, or PFOA, PTFE? What exactly might you see on an actual cosmetic product?
Yeah, you know, it would actually say, polytetrafluoroethylene, which is not short, it's long. It's long for PTFE. So that's the chemical that is actually contaminated with PFOA. So and it's not always contaminated with PFOA, but what we're asking companies to do is to test PTFE in their products for potential PFOA contamination. You can't do that as a consumer. So our advice is, if you see polytetrafluoroethylene on a product label, a cosmetic product label, don't buy it. You know, better safe than sorry.
Great. And a follow-up question somebody asked is, what were the products that Breast Cancer Fund's study found that were contaminated with PFOA?
So we found, let's see, 3 different L'Oreal products. So it was Garnier Ultra Lift Transformer Anti-Age Skin Corrector, the world's longest title, only to be rivaled by Garnier Ultra Lift Anti-Wrinkle Firming Moisturizer, CoverGirl Advanced Radiance with Olay Age Defying Pressed Powder, and then there were also some additional, let's see, those were the L'Oreal products. And I don't have the other ones in front of me, but they were also anti-aging products.
Great, wonderful, thank you. There's another question about if our webinars are recorded, or how someone could either see this again or pass it on. And we do record all of our webinars and make them available on our website. They're usually posted about a week after they air live. So we have today's webinar, and then we will repeat again on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And so by early next week, we should have a recording of this webinar up and available on our website. And so everybody knows who's on the call, everyone who's registered for the webinar will get a follow-up email with that information. So they'll be able to follow that. And for people who are on today and listening, we also love feedback, and we will be sending out an evaluation form with our thank you email that you'll get probably early next week. And please take a moment to fill it out. It's like 9 questions. It shouldn't take very long, but we really use that information to make our webinar program better. So I am going to close. We've answered all of our questions, and we're a few minutes short of an hour, but I would like to respect people's time and thank everyone again for your thoughtful questions and comments. And if you have other questions that arise, you can always follow up with us at info@bcaction.org. And again, thank you so much for attending, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.